And we're back. And that means it's time to get into part 2 of our Emperor's Children review with the detachments. There are 6 detachments in this book. We'll see. And again, since we don't have an index, I don't have one I can say like, well, this is like the index one. It's been updated, or this is what your like generic one. Well, we do have a generic one, but we're starting from scratch. So
yeah, the first one's always kind of the generic one.
Yes, and our first detachment is the Mercurial Host. Mercurial Host says you can re-roll advance rolls made for Emperor's Children units from your army. So
I like that.
This is your fast detachment. You know,
I like
we're
that
just going to
a
lean
lot.
into the ability. Nothing fancy, just re-roll advance rolls. You've got 4 enhancements. All of these are going on Emperor's Children models, so you are looking at Lord Exultants, Lord Cacophonists, and Sorcerers, and Demon Princes. So those are your options there. So your enhancements are Steeped in Suffering, Emperor's Children model only. Each time a model in the Bear's unit makes an attack that targets an enemy unit below starting strength, add 1 to the hit roll. If they're below half strength, add 1 to the wound roll. That's not bad. Intoxicating Musk. Each time a melee attack targets the Bear's unit, if the strength is higher than their toughness, subtract 1 from the wound roll. It's fun. Like maybe for the Demon Prince, I wouldn't bother with any of the like the regular infantry characters.
If it was not just melee, I would say this is decent.
Yeah, but melee is, at least with the wingless Demon Prince, the fact that he's lone op lets you get past shooting attacks.
True.
So you can kind of sneak him into position and then charge and then get him in. And there it might, again, though, he's probably not fighting anything that's that strong. So yeah, being only melee, it's kind of, not great. Tactical Perfection lets you redeploy up to 2 Emperor's Children units from your army, and you can put them in strategic reserves, regardless of how many are in strategic reserves. That's not a bad one either.
Yeah.
And I think depending on what you take, that's not a bad one because, again, as we mentioned earlier, there's not a lot of repositioning in this book. You don't have a lot of fast units, so having stuff that can come on off the sides later in the game, not necessarily bad. And you can kind of fake your opponent out by, like, I'm going to deploy these units. Oh, look, no, I'm not infiltrating this. I'm putting it into reserves, and it'll come in later, like on your backfield or something. And then Loathsome Dexterity. Each time a model in the Bear's unit makes a normal advance or fallback move, you can move through enemy models. The standard engagement range. Like you can move through engagement range, but you can't end in engagement range. And you automatically pass any desperate escape tests.
I really like this because I've had times and when we try to screen with some infantry, and enemy wraiths in this case, just run through them because they can. And also Harlequins, they can just run through things because they can. So this is really nice because it makes your opponent can't screen anymore. For that unit, at least.
And again, it would be fantastic if there was a character that could join Flawless Blades.
Yeah.
That could, that could take an upgrade.
The melee battle line unit.
Yeah, like on Unfractors, like an Exultant or even a Sorcerer with Loathsome Dexterity attached to a unit of Infractors. Like, that's actually where, like I know with the Lord Exultant gives lethal hits, which is better, but the Sorcerer giving cover to Infractors at all times is not bad. And then being able to, like, put this on them as a cheaper character to upgrade and then... allowing them to advance, because since they can do it when they advance and you're re-rolling your advance rolls, that lets you get a good solid 10 inches of movement and then charge something behind. Yeah, that's not bad. That's probably one of the better ones here. Yeah, that, and then probably Steeped in Suffering. Tactical Perfection's also good. I would not bother with Intoxicating Musk.
No.
Your strats, you've got Violent Excess, gives the unit's melee weapons sustained hits 1. Useful. It's fine. Combat stims in the fight phase, just, when you're getting fought against, an enemy unit has selected you as a target, subtract 1 from their wound rolls. Hopefully you're charging all the time, which means you're going first and you're killing enough of them that it won't really matter.
Yeah. I like this one if it wasn't 2 CP.
Yeah, 2 CP is really high for that. Honor the Prince. This is, named after a stratagem in older editions that was totally nasty back then. Now it's not bad. It's you auto advance 6 rather than rolling for it. I don't know. I think the reroll is almost as good. I guess if you absolutely positively need to make a 6, it's good to have.
Yeah, for one CP to make sure that you're absolutely going to get there, that's useful. It's good to have in the back pocket.
Yeah. Dark Vigor. Enemy moves ends a normal advance or fall back move within 9 inches of you. Select an Emperor's Children unit from your army, excluding beasts, which are spawn, and vehicles. That's within 9 inches. You get to move 6 inches, which I understand not letting the beasts do it because spawn already do that built in, so they don't need to.
I just wish you could also get an engagement range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Capricious reactions in your opponent's shooting phase. You give them -1 to hit one of your units. That one's actually pretty good because they're going to have to keep your melee units safe from shooting. So that one is handy. And then Cruel Raiders. Select an enemy unit from the Emperor's Children that is within 9 inches of a battlefield edge and not within 3 inches horizontally of one or more enemy units. Pop them into strategic reserves. Repositioning. You need it. Yeah, you need some repositioning. This is basically just the move fast and try to avoid getting hit detachment, which is generically useful for every Emperor's Children build. I mean, it's not great, not terrible. It's okay. Moving on, I think this is the one you mentioned earlier, Dennis, and that's the Peerless Bladesmen. This is or was it you, Kevin, that mentioned
I think
this
it was
one?
Kevin was talking about this one for the Flawless Blades.
Yes.
Okay. Each time an Emperor's Children unit from your army is selected to fight, if they made a charge move this turn, select one of the abilities below. All their melee weapons gain either lethal hits or sustained hits 1. It's like a Dark Pact, except you don't take mortal wounds. You just have to charge to do it.
Yeah, that's fine. You want to be charging.
Right. And much like the last detachment, this one is also melee focused. Faultless Opportunist. Again, all these are Emperor's Children only. One of them is Emperor's Children infantry only, so no Demon Princes, but otherwise they're all Emperor's Children models. Flawless Opportunist. You can target the bear's unit with heroic intervention for free, and you can do it even if they've already done it.
I like it.
That's really solid for them. Blinding Speed once per battle at the start of the fight phase. You can use this enhancement. If you do, they gain fights first until the end of the phase.
I kind of like that too. You probably need fights first once a battle, and this is also a deterrent for someone to. You gonna charge me? Sure, I'll activate my fights first.
Yeah,
and again, if you could have someone join Flawless Blades, it'd be fantastic.
Exactly.
Distortion. Add 1 to the attacks and damage characteristics of melee weapons equipped by the bearer. Again,
put that on the Lord Exultant with his once per game thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
you were getting work done.
Mm-hmm. And also +1 to the damage.
Yes,
oof, that's nice.
Yeah. And then Rise to the Challenge. This one is infantry only. Once per battle at the end of the fight phase, if the bearer is within engagement range of 3 or more enemy models, you can use the enhancement. If it does, the bearer can fight an additional time. When doing so, you can select one ability using the Exquisite Swordsmanship Detachment rule to apply to those attacks. So basically, gets to act as if he charged. So I'm still surrounded by 3 enemy models. I will fight you again. So it's like if you don't seal the deal and wipe the unit, go for it and try to finish off.
No,
finish the
I'm
job.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, all of these are good. Like all of the, you can only take 3. I think the one you might take the least is Flawless Opportunist. Maybe.
Probably.
It's still good though.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the amount of precision and like stuff. Yeah, like it's useful, but yeah, I think the other ones are all really good. They're all really good.
Yeah. Your strats: Deft Parry. Fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. You select an Emperor's Children unit that's targeted. They're -1 to be hit. So if somebody's getting the jump on you, or you're stuck in and you didn't quite, again, seal the deal, makes it less likely that they're going to do a lot of damage back. Death Ecstasy, 2 CP, but it's a auto fight on death. Like, no roll, you just fight on death for 2 CP.
That's about standard.
Yeah. Useful.
That's one where that's probably good for flawless blades if, again, they're stuck in.
Yeah.
Because it has to be a model that hasn't fought this phase. So obviously when you're charging, you're going to go first. But if for some reason you killed a model but didn't kill the unit, yeah, Death Ecstasy would be good for them. For like an infractor, not as good. For a character, not too bad. Like if your Lord Exultant dies, yeah, there's a good one. That'd be a good one to use. Incessant Violence, fight phase just before you consolidate with an Emperor's Children unit. They consolidate 6 instead of 3, provided they end within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. Yeah, you just constantly want to be moving and getting into combat, so yes. Okay. Cruel Bladesman, in the fight phase, after one of your units charged and has not yet been selected to fight, improve their AP by 1. Which your AP on for the infractors is 1, so getting that to 2 on their regular weapons is not bad.
Useful, and for 1 CP, yeah, that's worth it.
And for flawless blades, that gets them up to AP 4, which depending on what you're fighting, that might even be worth it if you absolutely need to stick those wounds in melee.
Mm-hmm.
Terrifying Spectacle in your opponent's command phase. Choose an Emperor's Children unit that made a charge move the previous turn and destroyed 1 or more enemy units. Has to be units. They have to wipe a unit in the previous fight phase. Each enemy unit within 6 inches of the unit of your unit must make a battle shock test at -1 if they're below half strength, and they don't need to make further battle shock tests if they're affected. So kill something a lot, trigger battle shock tests around it. It'll maybe come up once in a while. I don't think it'll be all that useful.
No, Dark Angels have something similar in the Deathwing one, and I've never seen no use for it.
What I'm wondering is, would that trigger? No, because that's in the shooting phase. I was wondering if that would trigger with the Lord Cacophonist ability, but it really won't. Okay.
Right. And then cut down the weak for 2 CP. One of your opponent's units falls back. You can immediately make a charge if you're with a unit within 6 inches that isn't a vehicle. You can only select a vehicle if it's a walker, which I believe is a Mauler Fiend. So a Mauler Fiend could do this.
Yep.
But you get to charge. You don't get the charge bonus, so you don't get the fights first. But let's keep in mind, the Exquisite Swordsmanship is not considered a charge bonus. It's just, hey, did you make a charge move, you get one of these abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like this because if people are falling back, that means they don't want to be in with you. Here's a way to make sure they get stuck in. I would do this even for the 2 CP.
Yeah, no, cut down the weak, I think, is very solid. The Mercurial Host gives you more consistent movement, between the Loathsome Dexterity, Honor the Prince, re-rolling your advance rolls. It's a good, all-arounder. I like the Peerless Bladesman. I mean, because again, as we mentioned, there's not a lot of shooting and definitely not a lot of distance shooting. You have to get up close. This one, I think, might be stronger. Because it improves your damage output, and it's got some tools for just really pressing the advantage and keeping the pressure on your opponent.
All of the enhancements are better. All of the strats, I think, are good, except for the one weird leadership one. Mm-hmm. And battle shock tests themselves aren't terribly bad. It's just kind of weird. This fits my playstyle more, and kind of what I envision how to play this army. So I like it, but yeah.
Well, and as we talked about, what are the things you're always going to want to take? You're going to want to take Fulgrim. You're going to want to take a couple of Mauler Fiends. You're going to take some Flawless Blades. They're going to all benefit from this, I think, more than the re-rolling advance rolls. Like this is just like, especially like that cut down the week. Oh, I didn't even think about that Fulgrim cutting down the week. Oh god.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like, if you can keep the pressure on, it doesn't say that the unit that was fallen back from is the one that has to do the cut down the week. If you can kind of pin them in where they have to fall back, but now they're within 6 inches of another unit, that unit can push in and charge.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that we're talking about before, of like this positioning with this army and like how you move and stuff like that is going to be key. And I think that's part of it. Like, you want to be able to keep units together so that they can shoot and charge different things, and you have options. Like, I think positioning is going to be super, super important with this army.
Well, cut down the week does say you must select that enemy unit as the target of your charge.
Well, it's the enemy unit that fell back, but they don't have
Correct.
to. The unit that you target doesn't have to be the unit they fell back from.
Right. Yeah. So if you have a different unit that's they fall back out of, say, Flawless Blades, Fulgrim is 6 inches away. Fulgrim can use this to attack them. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. I really like that stratagem.
Yeah. No, I think, considering how melee focused this army, the fact that they have an entire melee battle line unit tells me that like they want this army to be played up close and personal. Yeah. Peerless Bladesman really, really, like, you know, again, this unit, they want you to be like falling back and charging, or advancing and charging constantly. So you should be getting that exquisite swordsmanship bonus all the time, as much as you can. Yeah, I have a feeling that it's probably going to be neck and neck, if not better than the Mercurial Host. And it might be one of the ways to get the most out of this army.
Yeah.
Next up, and this is one that I particularly like. I know
this is my favorite of them as well.
Yeah, is the Rapid Evisceration, which, if you have played Chaos Space Marines, specifically Renegade Raiders detachment, this is kind of along those lines. Not exactly, but this is like your transports, like your moving and getting out of transports detachment. So the rule is mechanized murder. Each time an Emperor's Children model from your army makes an attack, if it disembarked from a transport this turn, reroll hit rolls of 1 and wound rolls of 1. This is going to be good for your Tormentors and Infractors if they're getting out of Rhinos. And remember, your Rhinos can advance and still let people disembark, where Tormentors, who don't want to charge necessarily, but want to pop out and burn somebody down, rerolling hits and wounds of 1 is actually really solid. And also, if Flawless Blades are being delivered by Land Raider, that will also apply. Your enhancements, Sublime Prescience. And again, all of these are Emperor's Children infantry, because Demon Princes don't get into transports. And pretty much all of them key off of transports and vehicles as well. So Sublime Prescience, once per turn in your movement phase, use this enhancement. If so, select one friendly transport that is in strategic reserves until the end of the phase. For purposes of setting up that transport on the battlefield, treat the current battle round number as being 1 higher than it actually is, which unfortunately you won't get to advance out of that, because it's just setting them up during the reinforcements phase. But that does give you not exactly repositioning, but dropping in somebody like onto the back lines on turn 2 rather than turn 3. So that's not bad.
And bringing something in on turn 1.
Yes, you could bring something in on turn 1, which could, like on the sides, which could be really good. Spearhead Striker, Emperor's Children infantry model only. Each time the bearer disembarks from a transport until the end of the turn, you can reroll charge rolls made for the bear's unit, and enemy units cannot use the fire overwatch stratagem to shoot at the bear's unit. God damn, why can't characters join Flawless Blades?
I know that you'd want this on Flawless, but I mean, even the melee battle line are really good for this.
Yeah, Infractors wouldn't be bad with this, and again, they'd be rerolling hit rolls and charge rolls. it's still frustrating. It's still very frustrating. And of course, right, because this would still only really work well. The tempo is weird with rhinos because rhinos, if it moves, you still can't, even like you can get out if it advances, but even if it just moves first, if you get out, you can't charge.
Right.
So it's either land raiders or you move up.
Yeah. Turn 1, move. Turn 2, use this.
Yeah. You'd have to do that. Accomplished Tactician, once per turn in your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has shot, select one friendly Emperor's Children unit within 9 inches of the bearer that was hit by one or more of those attacks and is within 6 inches of a friendly transport. They can re-embark in the transport.
This one's just amazing.
Usually you see this as a strat and not a enhancement, though. So making it free, but only for... And it's an aura... effectively. Yes. So it doesn't have to be a model that's in the unit that's re-embarking, but it does again require some placement.
Positioning, yeah.
Yeah, your positioning has to be just right.
But it helps out of you're getting out of the transport, shooting. Oh, I got shot, let's pop back in. Oh, next turn, hey, I'm getting out of the transport again. So it's maximizing your re-rolls there.
Yep. Yeah. And then Heretic Adept, once per battle round, when a saving throw has failed for a friendly Emperor's Children vehicle model within 6 inches of the bearer, you can change the dynamic characteristic of that attack to 0. I'm turning my Warpsmith into a Lord Exultant.
Yeah, I like this one, but I'm like, why can't I have a Warpsmith?
Yeah.
My issue with this one is, one, you can't use it while you're inside the vehicle, which means you have to be following the vehicle around.
Yeah, and you're not going to have a lone person following it around, so they're going to be with a unit and too many points.
They might as well be in the vehicle, but the one place where I could see this is protecting a land raider because you need the guns on it. I like the idea of it. I just think the actual application of it on the table is going to be really awkward.
Yes.
And generally, I don't care if you kill one of my rhinos once I'm out of it.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, I do, but I also noted, like, when I was playing my sisters recently, after my units got out of the rhinos, I sometimes forgot the rhinos were there.
Yeah.
Like, of these, I think Sublime Prescience is good if you're planning on doing reserve shenanigans. I think Spearhead Striker is really solid for a unit for like a Lord Exultant connected to a unit of Infractors.
Agreed.
Accomplished Tactician is good if you're attached to a unit of Tormentors, because they're going to want like pop out, shoot. Oh, they get shot at. They're going to pop back into the Rhino. Now the Rhino can go advance, and then they can pop out and still shoot somewhere else. Like those. I think Spearhead Striker and Accomplished Tactician are the two you almost definitely take. Maybe not both of them. It decides on,
right, which one you're leaning into.
Yeah, Prescience is a maybe, and I wish I could say I like Heretic Adept more, but I just don't see anyone who it's useful on.
If I had a lone op character that could take it, sure.
Yeah, but you don't, so.
Yeah.
Let's see. On to the next. Fight phase, just after an Emperor's Children unit from your army destroys an enemy unit, and if they're within 6 inches of transport, they can re-embark in it. So here, it's just you have to kill something, and then you can get back in your tank.
Yep.
That one's
I like it.
That one's kind of interesting. Yeah, and again, where it's like that's where that would be really good with Flawless Blades. Pop out, kill something, get back in the
Land Raider.
Get back in the Land Raider. Because then that basically just makes them an extension of the Land Raider to murder things and then get back in.
Yeah.
Advance and Claim. This one is specifically for Tormentors. In your command phase, you select a transport from your army that has one or more Tormentors units embarked within it. Select an objective marker you control that your transport is within range of. It remains under your control until your opponent takes it. So it makes the objective sticky, but remember the level of control is the Rhino's level of control, not the Tormentor's level of control. It just lets them kind of extend it outside of the Rhino a little bit. But a Rhino is OC2, so it'll hold the objective, but don't bank on it. But it's still useful to, like, in your command phase, I've parked near one objective, I'm going to take it, and then my movement, I'm going to move up and then pop my tormentors onto another objective. Yeah. That's actually pretty solid for scoring. Dynamic breakthrough. You choose a Emperor's Children vehicle unit from your army that has not been selected to move this phase. You can move through non-monster, non-vehicle enemy models. You just can't end an engagement range with them, and you automatically pass any desperate escape tests. So, just, it's not tank shock necessarily, but it's like, oh, you're trying to screen me from that objective, and we talked about this with the Mercurial Host. No, it's not quite loathsome dexterity, but it'll do. Ceaseless Onslaught in your charge phase. Select a unit from your army that disembarked from a transport that made a normal move this turn. You can still charge. There's where your infractors can get the benefit from Spearhead Striker.
True.
That, I think you're going to see that one used a lot if you're using infractors. Reactive disembarkation. Somebody shoots at one of your transports. A unit that was embarked on it can disembark as long as they're set up within 6 inches of the transport and not within engagement range. I don't know about this one because I put the people in the metal boxes so they don't get shot at. I don't necessarily want them to get out. It saves you a turn.
Shot. Well, no, it doesn't in a way, because I guess maybe for melee units it might save a turn.
For melee units it does. It saves you the turn of getting out.
You won't get your bonuses then, because the bonuses are the turn you disembarked.
That's true. Yeah, you won't get the reroll hits and wounds, but
I'm not really fond of this one.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird.
If you got to disembark and shoot at the unit that just shot you, then I'd be like, yeah, I'm for this.
I mean, I think the idea here is it's to avoid having to make a desperate escape. Attacks like 1 CP. I'm like, okay, this Rhino's getting hit with 6 las cannons. I'm gonna bail now so I don't have to worry about losing models. And like, maybe that's worth it, but
a use case.
Well, the thing is, it's after they've selected targets. So it does let you get out before the attacks are resolved.
So that's the only thing I can think of is like 1 CP. It feels like a stretch.
Of course, if they're outside of it and that vehicle has deadly demise and blows up, you may have hurt yourself.
I guess
anyway,
that's true.
But it just depends on where you figure the odds are.
Just don't roll that deadly demise, Rob.
Yeah.
I mean, don't roll the number to blow up.
Yeah.
I mean, in most cases, I'd rather take deadly demise than desperate escape, though. So
that's true.
I mean,
and then finally, outflanking strike. This lets you reposition either 1 transport or 2 dedicated transports. Like basically, if they're within 9 inches of the table edges, put them into strategic reserves, which basically means 1 Land Raider or 2 Rhinos.
Right.
Yeah. That's actually pretty solid.
Yeah.
It's one of the few ways you're going to be able to really do some repositioning. And if it's just the Rhino, like you're trying to get Rhinos into table quarters, it doesn't say anybody has to be embarked in them.
True.
Like I've unloaded the Tormentors onto an objective. I've got these Rhinos on the table edge. They've done their part. I'm going to put them, move them out and put them where I need them to get like line breaker or, like behind enemy lines or table quarters, things like that. Like that's actually that's a really useful strat for tournament play. There's outside, like in narrative play, maybe not so much, but in like match play, definitely I could see that being used. Okay, so those are all three detachments that are all
pretty good,
somewhat generally useful. Obviously, you have to kind of build more towards Rapid Evisceration. Yeah. Now we're going to get into 3 weirdos.
First one doesn't seem that weird to me.
It's weird in that it's the whole reason why there are demons in this codex.
Yep.
It's the only thing the demons in this codex can be used for, because you cannot ally those demons in normally in any way. I'm talking about the Carnival of Excess. This detachment has a demonic empowerment rule. While an Emperor's Children unit is from your army is within 6 inches of one or more friendly legions of excess units, which are the demons, it is empowered, and vice versa. So basically, anytime you've got a Demon's unit and an Emperor's Children unit within 6 inches of each other, they are both empowered. While they're empowered, their weapons have sustained hits 1, and if the weapon already had sustained hits 1, they crit on 5s. Now, how do I get demons into my army? Well, you can include legions of excess units in your army, even though they do not have the Emperor's Children keyword. And basically, you can about half your army, 500, 1,000, or 1,500 points, can be legions of excess. None of them can be Major Warlord standard, kind of like, it's like a Brood Brothers type thing, where it's like you can have half the army of demons.
Yeah, and I was comparing this to Emperor or Talons of the Emperor, where you have the two types of units that want to synergize by being next to each other.
Right. And also, this is one of the few times when you're going to have a lot of Deep Strike available, because all those demon units have Deep Strike. All of your enhancements affect Emperor's Children, or can be attached to Emperor's Children, except for one. We'll get to that. It can also be on Emperor's Children, but one of them's a little bit different. So you've got Empiric Suffusion, Emperor's Children only. Once per battle round, you can select one friendly Slaanesh unit, which is all of them, within 6 inches of the bear with the Heroic Intervention strat for 0 CP. Note, It doesn't give you and if you've already used it, they can still use it. Note that.
Still nice.
Dark Blessings, Emperor's Children infantry model only. Once per battle, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets, you gain a 3-up invulnerable save. That one's pretty good, just to keep somebody alive.
I mean, you only have 3 models that you can put it on, and if they're by themselves, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Possessed Blade at the Emperor's Children only. At the start of the battle, select one melee weapon equipped by the bear, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of that weapon. In addition, each time the bear is selected to fight, if it can use this enhancement, if it does, while resolving those attacks, add 1 to the damage characteristic, and the weapon has devastating wounds and hazardous. It's a good old-fashioned demon blade.
I like that.
I actually really do like this one. This on a
Demon Prince?
Well, Demon Prince, possibly. I'm just thinking a Phoenix Spear for Lord Exultant. Because, again, extra attacks, attacks are good, and being able to make those attacks 3 or 4 damage and devastating wounds, I'm willing to take the hazardous risk there.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Warp Walker, Emperor's Children, or Keeper of Secrets. Each time the bear's unit advances, do not make an advance roll. Instead, they just automatically add 6. Each time the bear's unit makes a normal advance or fall back move, it can move through enemy models. The standard thing, can't end engagement range, automatically pass desperate escape checks.
That's decent.
That is terrifying on a Keeper of Secrets.
Yeah, that is.
And the fact that it does affect your whole unit. So yes, if you have a unit of Infractors with a Lord Exultant attached, it's the loathsome dexterity, but also with full size advances. Yeah, that one's real. Warp Walker that's a must take in this. I don't think there's any reason you don't take that one. And if you're taking this, you're probably taking a Keeper of Secrets. That's what I would probably put it on. Your stratagems. Sustained by Agony. In the fight phase, just after an Emperor's Children unit from your army destroys an enemy unit, target that Emperor's Children unit. Select a Legions of Excess unit within 6 inches of your unit. One model in that unit, it recovers up to 3 lost wounds, or if they're demonettes, they get D3 plus 3 models restored. And you're going to see a number of these have, you want somebody within 6 inches, so you kind of want to, and obviously you want that for the empowerment, so you kind of want to be shadowing these units with each other the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Ecstatic Slaughter in the fight phase, just after a Legions of Excess unit from your army destroys an enemy unit. Select that unit and a Emperor's Children unit within 6 inches. The Emperor's Children unit can declare a charge. If it does so, and it's already been selected to fight this phase, it cannot fight again this phase. So if they fought and killed everything, you can still have them charge, they just won't be able to fight again.
Or if they're by the unit and your Legion of Excess killed it and your Emperor's Children had nothing to fight left over,
right,
they can still go charge something else. So yeah, this
right.
is really nice.
And keep in mind, the Legions of Excess units, they don't have the Thrill Seeker's ability, but that also means that they can fight things that somebody else charged first.
Yep.
Yes.
So that, they don't have that limitation. They don't get to reroll the advance, or they don't get to advance and fight, but they may not need to. Violet Crescendo. In your fight phase, select a Slaanesh Beasts, Infantry, or Slaanesh Mounted unit. Basically, anything you can take that isn't a Keeper of Secrets that has not yet been selected to fight. Until the end of the phase, they pile in or consolidate 6 inches instead of 3. They don't have to move towards the closest enemy model, just the closest enemy unit.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's not fantastic, but it's okay.
If it was 1 CP, I'm like, okay, that's decent. But 2 CP,
2 CP
no.
is pretty pricey for that one. Sycophantic Surge. In your charge phase, you select a Legions of Excess unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, your unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced or fell back, provided at least one of the targets of that charge is within engagement range of one or more Emperor's Children units from your army. So this will let you catch up with an Emperor's Children unit that did the advance and charge. Uncanny reactions. In your opponent's shooting phase, they target a Slaanesh unit with their shots. They're -1 to hit that Slaanesh unit, which again, all your stuff is Slaanesh, so that's good for everything, and your demons tend to be kind of made of tissue paper, so it's a good way to help keep them alive. And then Dark Apparitions, another 2 CP. At the end of your opponent's fight phase, select a Demonettes unit from your army that's not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. Put them in strategic reserves. If it arrives back on the battlefield in the reinforcement step of your next movement phase using Deep Strike, they can Deep Strike 6 inches instead of 9, provided it is also set up wholly within 9 inches of one or more friendly Emperor's Children units. It does not have a restriction that says you cannot charge.
Yep. This one is worth the 2 CP.
That one is absolutely worth the 2 CP, because you're basically using one of your Emperor's Children units as a Homer beacon.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that one is solid.
I mean, this whole detachment is probably my second favorite, just because I want to use the Slaanesh demons with the Emperor's Children.
Yeah, and this is one that I think is a total fluff win, and I do think it does have tools, and with everything having Deep Strike, it does address one of the issues of this army. Is it may be hard to get into like the backfield or to drop units into places where you can have them perform actions or do like other scoring activities that you need. This gives you that. You just want to make sure you have enough Emperor's Children units, or maybe just a few big ones that you can have a couple of other demons, because it doesn't have to be 1-to-1 necessarily. Right. Mm-hmm. You could still have like Fulgrim and a couple of Mauler Fiends and some infantry, and have like other demons flanking Fulgrim as like their source of empowerment. So like, and you don't necessarily have to go with like, like units of like tormentors and infractors.
Right. I will toss out that I do like Dark Apparitions for another reason, because like in Talons of the Emperor, you just shoot all the little sisters out, and then the big guys lose the buffs. So here you try and shoot the demons out and get rid of the buffs. But with this, I don't have any demonettes by me. Okay, well, let me bring some over here. So
yeah,
I like that repositioning to keep your synergy up.
Yes. And again, like having access to Keepers of Secrets, they don't have super strong attacks. I mean, the Wit Stealer Sword is strength 8.
They're anti-infantry or anti-elite infantry. They're not vehicle killers.
Right. But that's why you take Fulgrim and a pair of Mauler Fiends.
Mm-hmm.
But this does give you like a chance to do some interesting board control. And yeah, a Keeper's Secrets that's moving 14 inches and can just move through things with Warp Walker that like can't be shielded or can't be screened off. And that's also -1 to be hit with a 4-up invulnerable, and can have a 3-up save if you take the Aegis on it. It depends on like, do you want to take the Living Whip, the Ritual Knife, or the Shining Aegis? Like it's like they're all like all of them are decent. I think I'd probably give it a 3-up, 4-up just to make it safer against like light weapons fire. But I think you do take a Keeper. Whether you take a Keeper or Shalaxi, I'll leave that to you. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely possibilities there. It's not a bad detachment. It is a little bit of an oddball. It's the one place where you can use those demons again, kind of like Inari, where it's like, hey, look, we put all these units in here. You can use them in one detachment.
I'm fine with that.
All right, we've got 2 more to go. We've got the Coterie of the Conceited. Yeah. This one is odd. So at the start of the battle round, if your warlord is on the battlefield, you must pledge a number to Slaanesh representing how many enemy units will be destroyed this battle round. At the end of the battle round, if the number of enemy units destroyed this battle round is greater than or equal to your pledge, you gain a number of pact points equal to your pledge. Otherwise, you do not gain any pact points this battle round, and your warlord model suffers D3 mortal wounds. Now, why would you do this? Well, Emperor's Children units from your army gain a bonus depending on how many pact points you have gained during the battle. All are cumulative. If you've only gotten 1 pact point, you reroll all hit rolls of 1. If you have 3 or more pact points, you reroll wound rolls of 1. If you have 5 pact points, you have lethal and sustained hits on your melee weapons. And on 7 or more, you crit on 5s to hit. So it's not bad. It's a little bit of a power from pain type thing. Mm-hmm. But the fact that it's not just, oh, you've killed this many units, you earn points as you kill units. You have to guess how many you're gonna kill. You plan on how many you're gonna kill, and you better kill them or it's gonna hurt real bad. I don't know. Like, now, one thing, you can pledge 0. Like, you can always pledge 0. You just get nothing for it. But you'll never get hurt.
I think the upside here, and like I said, I don't know if this is actually worth it, but I think the upside is pretty strong. I think this is an army, like just talking about some of the other stuff and all the units we've gone through so far, you're going to have to be well positioned and kind of like know how to overlap things to whittle things down and then mop up and kill things. I think if you're playing from that perspective and you're comfortable with the army and you're good at target prioritization, I think you can juice this if you play it correctly. If you don't, you're going to get no benefit out of this. So I don't know that the risk reward is worth it. I leave open the possibility that a good player that knows how to position and knows like when and how to charge and how to pick off units would be able to gain a lot of benefit from this.
Right. I will say a couple of things. One, this is very matchup dependent.
Yes.
Again, this is going to be a hard list to take competitively because you don't have control over what your opponent's picking. Most likely they're going to pick a unit. They're going to bring an army with enough units that you can easily deal with to get the pact points. But like, again, it's one of those cases where you're going to hit odd cases where like, oh, look, I'm playing a Chaos Knight player. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have trouble getting more than 1 or 2 a turn if I'm lucky.
And I'll toss this out, Rob. When we do our Crusade stuff here, we're doing it at 1,000 points. 1,000 points, your enemy might have 5 to 7 units.
Yeah, that was the other thing. It's like if they don't have enough units for you to max out on pact points, you may never hit like the 7+.
Yeah, or even the 5+.
Or 5. Yeah.
So it's an interesting idea, but there's so many variables outside of your control. Also, dice, you will learn to hate your dice playing this. Your dice will screw with you so much. Your opponent's dice will screw with you so much. You may how many times in a game have we had something that like this is a guaranteed kill? I'm gonna wipe this unit, and they somehow save just enough to hang on.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I thought I had that. Maybe I pledged 2 and I only pulled off 1. I get nothing and I take D3 mortal wounds. And if your warlord is on the battlefield. So if they kill your warlord,
or you die from too many mortal wounds from guessing wrong.
Right, you don't get any more pact points.
Yeah.
Which, now that's tricky, because if you brought Fulgrim, he's your warlord. Everyone knows who they need to kill. Suddenly you're going to take that -1 to be hit rather than fights first, because you got to keep him alive.
Fair.
Like,
I'm not a fan of this one.
I'm not a fan of this one just because it like, again, flavor wise it's really kind of interesting, but execution wise there's a lot of gambling, and we haven't even gotten to the enhancements and strats now.
So let's go there.
Yeah, let's see if these will help with it somewhat. Our enhancements: Pledge of Eternal Servitude. And again, all these are Emperor's Children, so you could take them on, no infantry limitations, so you could take them on Demon Princes. The first time the bear is destroyed, take a leadership test for the bear at the end of the phase. If that test is passed, set the bear back up on the battlefield as close as possible to where it's destroyed, not within engagement range of any enemy units, with D6 wounds remaining up to its wounds characteristic.
Here's how you keep your warlord alive.
If you're not taking Fulgrim.
Yeah.
You have to not take Fulgrim for that to keep your warlord alive. Pledge of Dark Glory. I do like that these are all pledges. That, yeah, again, flavor win. Pledge of Dark Glory. While the bear is leading a unit, improve the leadership and OC characteristic of models in that unit by 1 on one of the battle line units. Like on a unit of Tormentors, sticky objectives, which, okay, now take it 30. Good luck. Like that. Pledge of Dark Glory on a Lord Exultant or a Sorcerer attached to a unit of Tormentors could basically guarantee that you are just taking objectives and no one can take them from you. That one's not bad. Pledge of Mortal Pain. At the start of your shooting phase, select an enemy unit within 12 inches of and visible to the bearer. That unit must take a leadership test, subtracting 2 from the result if it is battle shocked. If failed, the enemy unit suffers 3 mortal wounds. The only downside is you really want to get somebody battle shocked, and that's harder to do in this army.
Well, Lord can coffin it.
It's
Noise Marines. That's
Noise
Marines
with a Lord Cacophonist. Like you have to like you have to have a lot of pieces. Like you could put this on a Lord Cacophonist, but it still has to be an enemy unit within 12, which is still closer than you want your Noise Marines. So
yeah, but it's well within their 18-inch range.
That is true. You're not wrong. It just sucks. And then Pledge of Unholy Fortune. Once per turn, just after making a hit roll, wound roll, or saving throw for a model in the bear's unit, if they're not battle shocked, they can use the enhancement. If it does, treat the result as an unmodified roll of 6 instead. The fact that you can do this on saving throws is really handy.
Yeah.
Just once per turn, make a hit, make a wound, make a save, and it counts as a 6, so it can trigger a crit. That one's not bad. I think Servitude is necessary if you're not taking Fulgrim. Dark Glory is really good for scoring, and Unholy Fortune is just generally useful. Your stratagems: Protection of the Dark Prince for CP. In any phase just after a mortal wound or attack is allocated to a model in an Emperor's Children unit from your army, they gain Feel No Pain 6 up, Feel No Pain 4 up against mortal wounds for the rest of the phase. Not bad. Definitely better against mortal wounds than against regular attacks. Unshakable Opponents. In the command phase, select an Emperor's Children unit from your army until the end of the turn. Each time a model in your unit makes an attack, ignore any modifiers to ballistic skill, weapon skill, hit roll, or wound roll, which against some enemy units could be very useful. Embrace the Pain. Start of the fight phase, select an Emperor's Children infantry unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, each time an enemy model within engagement range of your unit selects targets, it must select your unit as the target of its attacks. So this requires you to have 2 units engaged with the same target, which again, you can't have them both advance and charge that same unit because they can't both charge the same unit. So you want somebody stuck in and then somebody else run up and say, no, fight me instead.
Yeah, no.
It's very weirdly situational.
The thing I would say there is the situation that pops to mind for me is if you get a Demon Prince or Fulgrim and a unit of Flawless Blades or Tormentors or something like that, and they're attacking the same target, you can keep them from targeting out Fulgrim or your Demon Prince and make them go after the Tormentors or Infractors, I guess, instead. So, situational, but I can kind of see use for it.
That assumes, of course, they survive combat with Fulgrim first.
Well, true, but again, it's one of those where like I can kind of maybe see it, but it's not.
It's gonna be rare that there's many opportunities to have this happen. So it's there, but don't plan on using it much.
Yeah.
You've got Martial Perfection in the fight phase. Just after one of your Emperor's Children units has been selected, you select one that has not yet been selected to fight. Each time they make an attack, they can reroll hit rolls. That's just good. Just reroll all hits is good. And it's any Emperor's Children unit, so great. Or Unbound Arrogance. In your shooting or fight phase, just after you've destroyed an enemy unit, increase your pledge to Slaanesh by 1. Now, that doesn't get you... That's not increase your pact points. That's increase the pledge. Mm-hmm. So that's a case where I guess you pick 0, and then it's like, oh, look, I killed something. 1. Yeah.
No, because you'd have to say 1... Or if you said 2 and you killed 1, you could use this to get to your 2.
No. You increase your pledge number by...
Right.
So you make a pledge. You have to pick a number. The number can be 0. So you could choose 0 to not risk anything. And then, oh, look, I killed something. My pledge is actually a 1 now.
Yeah. Okay. I was reading the other way.
Yeah, you kill something, you increase the pledge. So, like, let's say I pledged 2, and I've already killed 2, and then I managed to kill a 3rd unit. Unbound Arrogance, I pledged 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got it.
So you're getting the full benefit. Yeah.
Yeah.
As useful in regards to like this detachments mechanics, like that's very useful. Again, not 100% sold on this detachment, but
oh no, I hate this detachment.
No. And then and also you can only use that once per battle round, so you can't just be like, okay, on my turn I killed a unit. 1. Oh, look, on your turn I killed a unit. 1.
Yeah.
And then Armor of Abhorrence, it's Armor of Contempt. However, I imagine this will get the balanced data slate applied to it, saying it'll only count for... Because right now it says until the end of the phase, worsen AP by 1. It'll be until that unit, the attacking unit, has resolved all its attacks. There's no way they keep that as is. But otherwise, it's Armor of Contempt.
Armor of Contempt's useful. So
it is useful. It's just a shame that's attached to a really rough detachment. Again, I see where they're going with this, but man, it is so conditional on who you play and how dice go. I don't like it. I think I like this one possibly less, and that's our final detachment. Slaanesh is chosen.
See, I actually like this one better than the previous one, but this is also low on my list.
Yeah. So, I don't know. This one I don't like because let me describe the detachment rule. Emperor's Children character units from your army can ignore any or all modifiers to their move characteristic and any or all modifiers to advance or charge rolls made for them.
I like that.
Okay, that part's not bad. It's preventing penalties. Okay, at the start of the battle, your warlord's unit is your army's favored champions. The first time in each player's turn that an Emperor's Children character unit from your army destroys an enemy unit, after resolving all of its attacks, that character unit becomes your army's new favorite champion, replacing the old one. Each time a model in your army's favored champions unit makes an attack, you can re-roll the wound roll.
Sweet.
So you have to have 2 characters in your army to really benefit from it, which you will. This is an army that actually does want you to put characters in certain units, and that bonus is going to bounce around. And it only bounces around the first time somebody who's not a favored champion... Or no, I guess it's the first time any character unit destroys an enemy unit. So it could just be the same one over and over again.
You really
I guess you could
want it to be the same one.
Yeah. So, and again, if you take Fulgrim, he's your warlord, he's your champion. It just depends on, like, are you going to have Fulgrim fight first every turn? Probably. Yeah, maybe I dislike the coterie more. This one, it just seemed it's
awkward.
It's very awkward. I don't like it. I think I like the coterie less, but this one is just very awkward. Your enhancements, eager to prove. You can reroll charge rolls made for the Bears unit. While the Bears unit is your army's favorite champions, add 2 inches to their move.
Okay, Fulgrim with 2 extra inches? Oh, wait, no, you can't take this. Never mind.
It's an enhancement, so no. Repulsed by weakness. Each time an enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles within engagement range of the Bears unit falls back, they must take desperate escape tests. If the unit they're falling back from is your favorite champions, subtract 1 from those desperate escape tests.
That's a good ability, but this gets back into you have to try and balance who your favorite champion is.
Right. Profound and Vainglorious. You can reroll Battle Shock and Leadership tests taken for the Bears unit. Add 1 to OC if they're your favorite champions.
Nah.
And then Slayer of Champions. The Bear's melee weapons have precision, and each time the bear makes a melee attack that targets a character unit, improves strength and armor penetration by 1. This one does not have a favored champion requirement. That one's solid. Honestly, Eager to Prove and Slayer of Champions are both good.
Yes.
The others are, I think, they don't get good unless it's your favorite champions.
Yeah.
And honestly, Eager to Prove on a foot demon prince would be very solid.
Yeah.
If he does happen to become your favorite champion, now he's moving 12. Okay, yeah, I'm good with that. Your strats, Devoted Duelists. In the fight phase, select 1 or more character units from your army that have not been selected to fight this phase. Select an enemy unit until the end of the phase. Melee weapons equipped by models in those character units have sustained hits 1 while targeting that enemy unit. It's awkward, but you can't split it between multiple units. You can only have sustained hits against 1 enemy unit. A little weird, but...
And know who wants those sustained hits? Flawless Blades. Know what characters can join them? Nobody.
No, yep. Lucius, who gains...
Okay. Right. Okay, so this would be the one time Lucius can give them sustained hits. Lucius,
yeah, that would be the one time he does something useful.
You didn't see this, but I rolled my eyes.
We heard it.
Beautiful Death. This is a fight on death strat. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit is destroyed, if that model has not fought this phase, roll the d6, adding 1 if they're your favorite champions. On a 4-up, they fight on death.
So 3-up if they're favored.
This is better for like a Lord Exultant who is I mean, it doesn't have to be a Lord Exultant. Or no, it does have to be a Lord Exultant because it would be a character. I mean, I guess it could be a sorcerer, but why? But yeah, Lord Exultant... joined to a unit of infractors. Let the infractors fight on death. For 1 CP, the hard part is making sure that unit is your favorite champions.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the theme of this detachment.
Yeah. Heightened Jealousy. In your shooting phase of the fight phase, just after an Emperor's Children character unit becomes your army's favorite champion, or just after your army's favorite champion's unit destroys an enemy unit, you target your favorite champion's unit. The effect is until the end of the phase, because strats have to be targeted, so it's weird. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in a character unit from your army that is not your favorite champions makes an attack, add 1 to their strength. It's very clumsily worded, but basically, someone becomes
Whoever's
favorite
not the favorite
champions,
champion.
or the favorite champion kills something, everybody else who's could be your favorite champion but isn't gets +1 strength. It's okay. It's fine. Diabolic Majesty in your shooting or fight phase just after a character becomes your army's favorite champion. Everyone within 6 inches of that unit every enemy unit within 6 inches of that unit must make a battle shock test at -1. You can only use this once per battle round. Okay, yeah. Although theoretically, hopefully everything within 6 inches is dead, but maybe not. Refusal to be outdone in your charge phase. 1 Emperor's Children character unit from your army. Select 1 enemy unit within engagement range of 1 or more units from your army until the end of the phase. Each time one of your units declares a charge, the enemy unit is one of the targets of that charge. Add 2 to the charge roll. So it has to be you target a character who isn't in engagement range because they have to be able to charge, and then you target an enemy unit that is already in engagement with one of your one of your units, and then the character can add 2 to the charge roll. Also clumsy.
Yes.
And then Vengeful Surge, standard surge move stuff. Somebody shot you, you get a surge move, roll a d6, move that many inches. However, if your unit is not your favorite champions, you can re-roll the dice to determine the distance of the surge move.
I mean, surge moves are good, but with this detachment, I kind of feel like they were... I don't want to accuse them of trying to pad out a detachment, but I don't know. This one feels like they were trying to pad out a detachment.
Yeah. It also feels like...
We really wanted to not hear how few detachments there were in this army, so let's give them 6, even though we only have ideas for 5.
Yeah, that was exactly where I was going. It's like, this feels like, we got to... You got 2 more than Tau. Got to rub it in our faces, and you give them some crap ones near the end.
Yeah, because unlike the previous one, I could potentially see how the previous one works and is a benefit. I don't really see the benefit to this, why you would take it over other ones. I don't know. It's clumsy.
It is clumsy. Anything this can do, I think Peerless Bladesman or even Mercurial Host does better.
I would agree.
Yeah. So that is the army. That is all the detachments. If you haven't figured this out by now, we have a lot of frustration with this book.
Yeah.
So do you want me to go with my history, Rob, or do you want to
go with your history first?
So this is a long road getting here for me. It all started at the Renegade Open.
All those years ago.
We were there, and the Juan Diaz Demonettes went up for made to order. And I'm like, these are the Demonettes I actually like. I don't really like the newer plastic Demonettes. So I put in an order to get 60 of these because you could run them in squads of 10 or 20. And then I made the thing saying, well, I'm going to start playing Slaanesh for the next year because I just made this big investment. And so then for that year and following years, I played Slaanesh at Iron Halo. So the first year I took Slaanesh to Iron Halo, I just got shot off the board because running an all Slaanesh demon army, which is just pretty much demonettes, demon princes, the seekers of Slaanesh, and then I had... Yeah, that was about it, because there wasn't any real name characters. Yeah, and I was all melee, so I got shot off the board. So the next year, GW had made a ruling saying your faction just has to be a keyword that everyone shares. So my next year at Iron Halo, I said I'm going to try and fix this problem, because now I can ally in... Or not ally, but I could include Slaanesh Chaos Space Marines and a Slaanesh Chaos Knight. So now I had shooting, and it was great. So I bought my first Chaos Knight, and the only Chaos Space Marines I owned at the time then were the Havocs I bought, because Havocs were the best shooting thing to give me ranged attacks to kind of be a distraction and help support, as all of my other Demonettes and Seekers were running the board ahead of them. Yeah, that I made progress, but I was still losing a lot. But at least now I had some. I mean, you guys tease me saying, "Yeah, you have Chaos Space Marines now." I'm like, "Yeah, I have 2 squads of Havocs. I don't really think that's an army." But then I think it was now 2 years ago at the Kansas City U.S. Open when Kevin then talked me into trying the party like it's $29.99 army. And so then I started getting some Noise Marines from the 30K line and some of the other models like the Phoenix Terminators and not the Flawless Blade, but their sword unit there from that. And I was like, wow, okay, this is cool. I can play Chaos Space. I actually have a Chaos Space Marines army now. I'm calling them Emperor's Children because I'm using Emperor's Children models. And I was busy like replacing all the shoulder pads with the Emperor's Children, like winged shoulder pad. And I'm like, okay, this is good. And then they showed Fulgrim. I'm like, okay, this is actually happening. And then they said it was only Forge World. I'm like, okay, this is not happening yet, but soon maybe. And then they finally got to this codex. And then as Rob first broke it open, he started telling us all the stuff that wasn't there and the stuff we couldn't take anymore.
Yeah.
And that was kind of crushing because no Havocs, no Warpsmith. At least I could keep my Mauler Fiend. But there's no melee equivalents for any of the 30K models. So that did put a damper on my ideas of how I wanted to build an Emperor's Children army of like a faction of them that was still holding on to the old ways and not fully embraced the chaosiness of it just a little bit. But yeah, so that I because of that I was very, very down on this, and it took me changing my mindset to actually start accepting this codex. And it was changing the mindset of saying, well, this is a brand new army. Anything I had before doesn't exist. Let's only focus on what's in this book. And that's how I'm starting to treat it now. But yeah, I think I might not dig into this as quickly as I would have if I'd already had a bunch of the models and just really needed to get the codex and Fulgrim. Because Eldar just came out, and that was a big hit to the wallet, and Emperor's Children will have to wait for a while till I recover. So I'm kind of thankful in a way that I'm not going to jump in, but I mean, the models look great. This codex as a standalone thing is great. I don't, as a competitive army, no, I don't think it'll be that. But as a fun, fluffy army you can run for just a fun game or maybe a crusade thing where you're fighting against other infantry groups, this would be a blast. And especially with the way the new models look, and as Rob talked since he's put them together, they sound like they go together really well and they look really cool. So no, all in all, I think I'm pleased with this. It's not what I was looking for, but I think it's fine.
So where I'm at on this army, and my history of this goes back way before yours.
I know.
Yeah. In fact, I was going through my old photos. I started working on my Emperor's Children army back in 2011 as part of an independent characters hobby challenge. So this would have been like, we had just maybe started recording our show. Like this, that's how long I've been playing Emperor's Children. And it obviously wasn't my main army. Tau was my main army, but this was the chaos that I decided on after I decided Berserkers and Khorne weren't for me, and I foisted those off onto Kevin, and
and he ran.
I mean, worked out pretty well for me.
I think you may have come out ahead. So like I'm looking back through pictures, and I had a Defiler, I had 2 Predators, I had a bunch of like Noise Marines and some Demonettes, and yes, I had Juan Diaz Demonettes, and I had a Demon Prince that I had made from like a Reaper minis, like Succubus, and I gave her a possessed winged demon, like the backpack that the possessed used to have with wings, and like an extra Chaos Spawn Crab Claw arm to make her appropriately Slaaneshi. And yes, this army was not safe for work because she is naked, and the Juan Diaz Demonettes were naked because it was Slaanesh, and I was kind of young and stupid at the time, and it's like, this is an army that, like, that particular version of it I probably wouldn't take to a store now. so like I've had a lot of the components for this army for a long time, and obviously I've added on to it. But like I had a land raider with Terminators, like dual lightning claw Terminators, and like one of the reasons why it sucked when they changed the Terminator kit and I can't do dual lightning claws on everybody anymore. I'd kind of made peace with that. I put together some new Terminators, but like the last time I played
still
this,
haven't made peace with that, by the way.
Yeah, no,
I'm still big mad about that.
I'm upset about it, but I've kind of like it's angry acceptance. Let me put it that way. But the last time, like last year at the Midwest Conquest narrative, I brought my Emperor's Children, and I had my Predators, and I have Mauler Fiends, and I have a Disco Lord, and I have a Warp Smith, and I have Obliterators, and I have Noise Marines that I was taking with like chain swords, and I had like regular Noise Marines, and I had a Terminator Sorcerer that I took along with my Terminators, and they got a lot of work done. My collection now, like I have one of the new Demon Princes, and I'm really happy with that one. Like my collection now of Emperor's Children is probably 75% unusable. So as an existing player, because like I can't use my Raptors, I can't use my Havocs, I can't use my Bikes.
I had Raptors too.
Yeah. Like there's so many. I can't use my Predators. I can't use my Terminator Sorcerer. I can use my Terminators, but I probably won't, I don't think. So like I'm pretty much starting over. Now that left a bad taste in my mouth. I can't say it was completely unexpected. I did not expect the level of things that were gone. I figured Predators and Hellbrutes would be in there because they're in every other Cult Legion book. And now whether they'll still be there when these new books come out, that we don't know. And I think that's a valid concern. But like I was surprised by like the Forge Fiend not being in there when the Mauler Fiend is. It's like the kit makes both of them. There's no reason why the Forge Fiend shouldn't be in there. But then the more I dug into it, it's like, okay, well, what do I like? And again, I know I've brought this up before, and it does kind of skew my experience. But like even playing locally, there are a couple players who are playing guard and who are leaning hard into tanks and motorized guard, and I play somebody who plays Chaos Knights, and so I'm in a vehicle heavy immediate meta. And the more I looked at this book, I was just struck by I don't have options. I don't have good options to deal with that. I don't have I've got a couple. But like when you have to take your Primarch because it's one of the only anti-vehicle weapons you have, that's bad design. The lack of range on Noise Marines really surprised me, because if I had Noise Marines with range on the Blastmasters, that's what I could use to hold down the backfield while I pushed up with everything else. 18 inches means you're not going to have that range until they're right up on you.
Rob, this sounds like my Slaanesh thing early when I had no range and I added the shooting, and I picked Havoc so I could have shooting on the back line. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that it is sorely lacking in this book of just any heavy unit to hold a back line and be a threat anywhere.
Right. Which is one of the reasons why I'm like, you almost want to have a unit of Tormentors to stick an objective early on and make it harder for your opponent to take it from you. Because this is an army that it's going to be difficult to screen your backfield because it wants you pushing everything forward.
Yes.
It wants you up in your opponent's face very quickly. And if your opponent is at all savvy, has deep strikers, has reserve shenanigans, can push past you, competitively, I think this army, I said it has a high floor. I think it also has a lower ceiling than a lot of other armies. I
totally agree.
There may be some competitive players out there who just take this and make it sing, and I hope there are. I want to be proven wrong. But as is, it's like this army, it suffers against certain builds. There's very much rock, paper, scissors element to this that I think a lot of our other armies can work around, that even at 2,000 points, this army suffers at. I think this army has a distinct lack of good action fodder.
Yeah.
you've got a lot of armies who will, like, you'll take a unit that you can just drop in somewhere in the back corner. It doesn't necessarily have to kill anything, but it just needs to be able to get back in your opponent's backfield to land on an objective or be in a table quarter or perform an action like within so many inches of the center or in the backfield, or to maximize points in competitive play. This army is sorely lacking. It's not completely out of those options, thanks to a couple of the detachments having some repositioning abilities, like putting stuff back into strategic reserves so it can come out. You've got the Carnival of Excess, which does give you access to deep striking units that in a level that you don't have in the main army, because Terminators are too expensive to use for that. You need something cheaper that you can drop somewhere and just throw away. Whereas, like, let's see, in this book, Demonettes are 120 points for 10 models. That's still more than I'd want to spend on it. I'd want a cheaper chaff unit. Because that's the other thing. It's like, there's no cult equivalent. There's no cultist equivalent. You don't have jackals. You don't have poxwalkers or cultists or Zangors or anything like that. You have tormentors and infractors as, like, your battle line cheapest units. And you mentioned, like, there's stuff in, like, when we were talking about sonic weapons, like, man, there's stuff in this book that are so cool. It's just a shame you don't get to use it. They even mentioned that in here. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, warband assets. Besides squads and retinues of egotistical warriors, warbands can often call on other assets should the mood strike their commanders. Some have covens of mortal Slaanesh worshippers in their thrall.
Yeah.
Other harbor armored detachments of battle tanks and combat walkers, or super heavy assets can bring whole hive cities to their knees. So it's like, okay, you can bring in knights, sure. Where's the other stuff that you say I could bring in? Where's my cultists?
Yeah.
Why are there not Slaanesh cultists in here? But I'm just like, this is an army that it feels incomplete. And I feel like to really make this army work, you either have to take Fulgrim and, like you said, a pair of Mauler Fiends. You, like, that's what, 665 points, the neighbor of the beast?
Yeah.
You can, for 420 points or so, you can take 3 War Dogs as an allied detachment.
Gosh. War Dogs are way too cheap.
They are too cheap, but it's like, you take like, beyond the fact that, like, War Dogs they're small enough to hide behind terrain so they can move around. They're fast. They hit on 2s, if they're carnivores or brigands, they hit on 2s. Rough. And they're OC10.
Yeah.
Like,
War Dogs are just too good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
I think you take at least a pair, if not 3.
Yeah.
And there's no limitation that says you can't take those and ally in demons as well.
True.
I think you possibly, let's see, according to the latest points document, Chaos Demons, a unit of Demonettes is 100 points, which is 20 points cheaper in this book. The fact the price dropped in a recent document. I think you maybe take you take a unit of Demonettes and
Chillaxy.
you have to take a character. So, like, do you take a Keeper of Secrets, like 290? Yet where's the Herald with the harp?
No, Chillaxy. And she's the Infernal.
450.
I mean, she's the
Chillaxy's too expensive. Like, you either take just Chillaxy or for a Keeper is 290. So for 490, you could that might be a bit more expensive, since you do have to have the, like, you can't take more battle line than you have characters. So that's a bit harder. I guess you could take the mask and a unit of Demonettes, and that's 185 points. And now, like, two knights is like 280. A unit of Demonettes and the mask is 185. For less than 450 points, you've got the extra pieces that you can use for, like, cheap scoring and dealing with more vehicles and things like that. And that might get you away from having to take Fulgrim. But the fact that I have to lean into 2 other armies to get those does not say much for how this army feels.
Well, I'll give I'll give the more, in my opinion, like the more positive take, because I don't dislike the. I don't disagree with most of what you said. I don't dislike this book as much as I think either of you have or do. I do not have the history with World Eaters as well, or Emperor's Children that you guys have. So I don't have a lot of the attachments to how they previously played. I don't have the previous models. So all of that caveat there. Focusing in on what this army does. This army is very fast. It has the ability to advance and charge, fall back and charge, like shoot, like it has a ton of mobility. And I think that is going to be its strength, because the conversations that I've had with people about like the World Eaters, World Eaters are not a melee army. They are a movement army. If you can win the movement phase, if you can position things and get things into the right spot, you're going to be fine. I think this army will be the same in that if you can move things around, position your units, do your overlapping, have it where you can shoot this unit, then assault that unit, and then bounce over here and assault that unit, I think you'll be fine. And then you have your flawless plates come in to do mop up here and then bounce over here. I think this army can be played well. I think it's going to require finesse. It's going to require good players. And again, at that point, if you're that level of player that maybe can pull this off, maybe you're better off just playing a different army. The problem, I'll say this with all of the Cult Legions, other than Death Guard, none of the three of them, Thousand Sons, World Eaters, or Emperor's Children, are feature complete. They are all missing things they should have. And it's going to take another codex cycle or two for them to get all this, because it's the same issues when Skitarii came out. Skitarii and Cult Mechanicus weren't really full armies at the time, and they built them up over time. They gave them more units, and 5-6 years later, they're basically a full army. It sucks to have to wait that long. It sucks that they're doing it this way because they didn't have to. I think this army is going to struggle against certain lists. I think it's going to do really well against certain lists. It's probably going to wind up being a below average army, I think, in tournament play, just because I think you're going to require specific skills and specific ways of playing, and matchup dependent as well, to get full use out of this. And I think a lot of people are going to try to play it because they like the models or whatever, and maybe don't have the floor of skill to make this army work. But I do think there are some good tools in here to at least make it so that you can keep the big things off of you while you go get those objectives and try to win missions that way. Is that ideal? Is that the best way to play this army? Is that the way you want this army to play? Probably not. But I think with the tools that are in here, it has tools that are capable of doing things. But that also, like I said, requires that you take specific units, that you position things in certain ways, and you have a little bit of luck go your way. So I think this army can be good. I think it's a good base for the next codex more than anything else.
Yeah, perhaps. I like I said, I stick with my high floor, low ceiling. And I think that is true. It's going to take a very good player to push this further. Yeah. And I'm wondering how many really good players are going to look at this and be like, nah, there's something else I can play that'll be better. Like, how many players are going to jump onto this?
Yeah. No, and that's completely fair. The army that this reminds me the most of is Grey Knights. Because Grey Knights don't have a lot of like high strength, ability to take out big targets. They have a lot of smaller units that are really good at like moving around and repositioning. Granted, different type of movement because they can just reposition. But they're a mid-range shooting army that has to like stick and move and do things like that. And I think that's the template for how this army plays and is able to win matches. So it's kind of a hybrid of Grey Knights with a little bit of World Eater play style in there as well. I kind of like that it positions itself differently than either of those armies. It doesn't do it well enough, in my opinion. Like there is that middle path, and I think with a few extra units, this army really could work and be good. So I don't know. I like the idea of what they're trying to do here, and I like I said, I'm excited for the next codex already when they get 3 or 4 more units and this thing feels more like an army.
Yeah. I think we had that discussion when we were first going through the book, and while you were definitely more bullish on it because you made the comparisons to how it played compared to like World Eaters, and you felt it kind of fell into a similar kind of niche, and that's an army you're very familiar with, and it does play very differently than the army I'm used to playing with it. I think we agreed that like if you had cultists, Hellbrute, Forge Fiend, and maybe the 2 predators, and even those, I think. Warpsmith, I don't know. Like Warpsmith, I don't know if it quite fits the rest.
I have to have a perfect vehicle.
Exalted flawless blades is the.
Well, I'm thinking aren't units that already exist that other books have or have an equivalent of. Like there's 3 or 4 units that are already out there that there's no reason for this army to really not have. And I feel like if those were there, you'd have maybe not like all the tools you need, but the toolbox would feel more complete. And I wouldn't, if you had a couple of chaff scoring units like cultists, if you had a mid-range vehicle like a walker, like a Hellbrute, where you could have las cannons on it, or like something where it could be a melee threat and a shooting threat, and maybe it's not the most resilient, but it would give you a little bit of damage output, so you wouldn't feel like I've only got like 2 or 3 options I have to deal with a variety of targets. And if that's an option to do, like, maybe it would require a new kit, but like, hey, a sonic blaster upgrade later on would be awesome.
People would buy that. Yeah.
It's like, I think that's the mind boggling thing to me. It's like, there are options that already existed. Why were they not there? I also feel like this is a bad army for new players. There are going to be players who look at this and be like, man, that army looks cool. I want to try it. And I feel like I want to tell them, no, this is a high skill level army. It's maybe wet your teeth on like chaos space, like generic chaos space marines first.
So kind of the last thought I have on this is this army is very good at a couple of things. Like this army is going to be very good at killing characters. It's going to be very good at killing infantry. It's going to be very good at scoring objectives. I think that if I were to build a 2,000 point list from this army and take it up against my more infantry heavy World Eaters list that I normally run, that I've been running at the Grand Narrative and LVO and things like that, and have been doing well with. I went like 4-1 at LVO. I went like 4-2 at the Grand Narrative. So like the army's been pretty good. I think if I take that list against 2,000 points of Emperor's Children, the Emperor's Children murder that list very quickly.
Is it because that list is so infantry focused?
It's so infantry heavy. Yeah, I think it's because it's just so much infantry. That said, the counterpoint to that is I can then take my World Eaters list if I know I'm playing Emperor's Children, and I can build a World Eaters list that has Lord of Skulls and Mauler Fiends and Hellbrutes that this army will never scratch the paint on. And that's where there's like, this army has one way of playing. Even something like World Eaters have multiple ways of playing. And that feels like that's the huge difference at this point.
I agree. It's like this army is so matchup dependent because, if you're playing against an infantry heavy army, like I feel like this army does really well against something like Gene Stealer cults.
Yeah.
I think this army does decently well against a non-Monster Mash Tyranids, and it might even do okay-ish against Monster Mash Tyranids. I don't know. It just depends on what you bring. I think a unit of guard, like a guard army that doesn't lean too heavily into tanks, but tries to just like the siege detachment where it's like a bunch of infantry charging forward. I think this army does really well against that. It's just that this army, because all its tools are made to kill infantry, it is so rock paper scissory. This will do very well against infantry heavy armies. It will struggle against a lot of other things.
And man, it's such a good thing that they didn't reboot the game to make it more vehicle heavy.
Ugh. That's a whole nother episode that we've done before. So
Yeah.
So yeah, I think in the end, I don't want to say it's terrible. There's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of tools in here. There's some fun stuff to be done in here. And yes, at a narrative level, I think this is a fun army to play. The fluff support is all there in the rules, minus the things where they mentioned that just don't exist here. But like it's going to play the way you would kind of feel like you've got these crazed units running around trying to bounce around the whole table, going after as many different things as they can. That's fun and cool. I don't like it competitively, but for casual play, it's probably fine. It's just, and I think that's kind of where we all land. So it is getting late. That is our review of the Emperor's Children Codex. Beautiful models, weird codex, maybe not for new players, but I'm curious to see what experienced players do with it. We've got Midwest Conquest coming up in May. As soon as I finish these Emperor's Children, which by the time you hear this, I will have them done and you will see them on our social media. I will be getting back to painting Eldari for the raffle. There's a narrative event there. We've got the GT, Beer Hammer, the Night Joust. There's Bolt Action and Age of Sigmar as well. So we would love to see you. That's in Independence, Missouri, Memorial Day weekend. All the details are up on MidwestConquest.com. So we'll have something else to talk about in a couple of weeks. But until then, from all of us here at Preferred Enemies, I'm your host, Rob.
Kevin.
Dennis.
Good night, good gaming, and I'd like to taste more sound and maybe feel less pain.